Yes, the red dot is in position. I figured it out, Jasmine. We're
Yay!
recording. We're live and direct. How are you this morning?
I'm doing brilliantly, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so good, in fact, that it's actually afternoon. I think it's still morning. So yeah,
That's it.
there we go.
Time is but a construct.
It is but a construct of our mind. But I'm absolutely delighted that we're getting to do this. So many things to ask you, so little time to do it in. But is it all right with you if I do a little introduction? And as ever, let me know if my people spoke to your people and got it correct. Is that all right?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So for anyone that's just tuned in, I'd like to welcome you to Coffee with Kofi, which is the leadership podcast where we explore the mindsets, decisions, and defining moments that shape extraordinary leaders. Today, I'm speaking with Jasmine Richards, author, editor, entrepreneur, and founder of Storymix, which is a purpose-driven children's fiction studio that is reshaping representation in publishing. Jasmine has worked on more than 15 books, collaborated with major publishing houses, and built a platform that discovers, develops, and launches underrepresented writers into mainstream success without compromising on joy, excellence, or commercial impact. What makes Jasmine exceptional, I know you're blushing here, isn't just her achievements, it's her vision. You believe that all children deserve to see themselves as the heroes of their own stories, and you built a business that turns that belief into a powerful commercial model. You blend creativity with strategy, social mission with scalability, representation with revenue. I hope you like the alliteration. I worked now. In a world where leadership is often associated with hierarchy or power, Jasmine, to me, demonstrates something different. Leadership is courage, leadership is service, leadership as creation. And in this conversation, my hope is you'll hear how Jasmine has broken into publishing without necessarily having networks, navigated some imposter syndrome at times, what strategic frameworks have really helped her. I think it's going to be a masterclass in creativity, resilience, and unapologetic authenticity. Jasmine, welcome to Coffee with Kofi.
Oh, thank you, man. Can you just come around with me and be like my hype person? That is the nicest introduction I have ever had.
Serious?
Really. Like it was about the leadership and the service bit and scalability. I saw what you did there. That was amazing. Thank you.
Okay, good. So my people got it right when they spoke to your people.
Yeah.
Good. Well, as a lover of the English language, similar to yourself, I like alliteration, and I don't know, I like words that are impactful. And I think this is the truth. So I tell no lies. And it's been a delight to get to know you on the BBI MBA 30 course. And we had to do it. I know we talked about it, but we had to do it because what you're doing is nothing short of inspirational. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
So are you ready for some questions?
I'm ready for some questions.
Great. And it's like I said to you before, it's a conversation, and I just want it to come from the heart. So no right or wrong, it is your truth. So that's it. So from my understanding and extensive research, you grew up in London?
Grew up in North London, yeah.
And discovered your love of books at a young age. What was the moment where you realized you wanted to build a career around stories and publishing?
So it's interesting actually, because I think if you were to speak to my school friends at junior school, even secondary school, apparently I always vocalized this ambition to be an author, right? Apparently I was talking to my friend Carla a while back, and she said that. She goes, you always said you were going to be an author. But I didn't really realize that I wanted to work in publishing until I got to university, actually, because everyone knows what an author does. So, you know, if you go into a school, and I go into lots of schools and talk about careers in publishing and about being an author, if you go and speak to a kid, most kids will understand what an author is and what an illustrator is, but they don't really necessarily know what a publisher does, right? What a publishing company does, and all of those different roles: editorial, marketing, sales, export sales, all of those things. They don't, of course, you know, they don't know about that stuff. And I didn't know anything about that stuff because I didn't know there was no one in my life who worked in publishing, right? That's very different from my own children. Like every man and their dog has got like a probably quite, because a lot of my friends are publishing friends, they know what publishing is, they know what intellectual property is, they are very hot on stuff like that. We'll get into that later. But at university they used to do this thing called the milk round, right? And I should just give some context that I went to Oxford, so I don't know if the milk round happened everywhere, but when I was at university many years ago, there was something called the milk round. So all of these big companies would come to woo students, and you get loads of free stuff. So you went for the food and for the free things. And I went to this talk put on by Sony, and they spoke about this role where you go out and find musicians and artists, and you try and sign them up, right? And you develop talent, and they would go and talk to everyone in this room, and you get a sticker as to whether you were called back for a second interview. I didn't get a sticker. I remember leaving there sort of thinking, gosh, you know what, I really wish there was a job like that, but for books, where you go and try and find talent and you sort of develop that and you launch. I just still was not connecting the dots that there was an industry called publishing. After I finished uni, I ran something called the Oxford Access Scheme. We had to raise, and that was all about getting kids from inner city state schools to apply to Oxford and Cambridge. And one of my jobs, so I'm about 21 here, was to raise sponsorship to run these summer schools, to work with these kids. And I approached a company called Pearson, who at that point owned Penguin, right? And the Financial Times. And I must have impressed them in some way, got some money out of them, but they also said, you should apply for the Penguin Graduate Trainee Program. I was like, yeah, Penguin. And then I looked at this thing and I looked at the description. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I should be doing. Like, I want to work in publishing, but I didn't know that until I saw the job description. Like, literally, look what needed to happen for me to even think I apply for a job in publishing, which is wild, which is why I think part of the reason why we don't see enough Black folk in publishing. Like, it's just not on the table as an option. Teacher, lawyer, yeah, sure, but publishing, not so much.
Yeah, now thank you for that context, because I love it, and for many reasons I love it, and I think others will find different things to sort of resonate with. But for me, it is how your path became clearer from not self-interest, but actually a desire to be of service to others. So I told no lies when I said the intro. I told no lies. You've gone to try and help raise funds to help access to Oxbridge and for people who are underrepresented, but no doubt talented to know about it. And then there's a conversation about, you should apply for this.
I've never quite made that connection, but you're right. Yeah, you're right. There's these two strands, like creativity and then trying to open up stuff, like the access to stuff has been there from when I was, okay, oh, you're good at this.
We could do a whole thing on serendipity and timing and being in the right place and right. But for me, as I hear it, maybe it's what I'm drawn to. I'm just like, you didn't go out there to do you went out there to help others, and in that way you've got an awareness of something that would have otherwise lain dormant. So,
and actually, what I would say is I had to do this kind of this apprentice style thing. There was only 2 roles for this training program, and so it was like the apprentice before the apprentice as well, because we're talking about 2002, long time ago. So we had to do that bit, which I really enjoy. I really enjoy stuff like that. Like, I'd love to be on the traitors. Like, I enjoy stuff like that, where it's like a team thing, like who's going to be in a leadership role. Like, I'm all up in I love that. But there was also but there was also this sort of psychometric test stuff, which had a lot of maths. And I remember sitting with HR and they said, you know, you really shone in those team building activities. In the psychometric test, we've never seen someone perform as badly as yourself. Like, the maths part, like numbers is not my thing, right? And I can't always see the patterns when you do those. And then she said, but do you know what we loved? In your interview, you took off your shoes. And you were so comfortable in your own skin. Now, I took off my shoes because they were brand new shoes. And they were sore, and I didn't realize anyone could see that. So it's so interesting about the framing. They're like, you're such a maverick. I'm like, yeah. I've imagined not brand new shoes, because I learned a lesson that day. Never wear brand new shoes to an interview. It's what I say when I go and speak to teenagers about careers, like never new shoes. That's a disaster.
Yeah. Oh wow. And more gems. And I'm not going to necessarily respond to everything because I've done this in chapters. It's the way I see it, because I'm paying homage to the fact that you know about books. So this first chapter is really early journey.
Man, hold on. You give me a good edit. Keep me moving. Go on.
No, I'm gonna do that because we've got so much to unpack. But you're sprinkling gems. But for me, the next thing that came to mind was, I mean, I love that because authenticity got you to where you got to. And again, I didn't want to say something about everything, but we don't have to be good at everything. Just be really good at the thing that you're good at, like you were, and it will work or it won't work. So kudos to you for that. My follow-up question really was around the roles that you've held as author, editor, and then founder of Storymix. Like, it's a lot. So how have you navigated those shifts in identity from being the creative, editing the creative, and then building a sustainable business?
Okay, so what I would say is they haven't always just run kind of concurrently. Sometimes those things have been parallel at the same time, right? So I was working in-house as an editor at the same time I was writing my first book and had my first books published back in 2012, like a really long time ago. So I would work in a publishing house by day and I'd be writing my books by night, right? So those two things ran side by side. It was actually only once I had my first child that I realized that I couldn't work in publishing, write novels, and be a parent. Like, that was too much. That's when I kind of made a decision to go freelance, to give myself a bit of wiggle room in terms of still being able to write. So when I had to choose, I was like, okay, I really love writing. I like this new baby I've just had. I mean, they wake up a lot, they're a bit demanding. I mean, he seems like a nice kid, so we'll stick with it. But what I discovered is I was actually terrible at freelancing, and it's because I really like to be in charge. I can't really put it any other way. And I didn't enjoy as a freelancer. It's like, you just didn't know. It's like, can you please proofread this? Or can you do that? And it's actually, I got to a point where I was like, I actually want to create. So it was actually quite, in some ways, we can talk about impact and social justice. Those things are true of me as well. But if we're going to boil it right down, partly the reason why I started Storymix is because I wanted to create the work that I would get to edit or write on. Like, I wanted to build the stuff that I would do, rather than wait for a publisher to get in touch and say, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? So in some ways, I feel like even though it's really hard being an entrepreneur, I feel so lucky because I actually get to do what I love. Like, I built the business and the image of what I'm good at.
That, again, beautiful. There is no preparation needed, because the truth needs no preparation. Lies do, because they do. But this is incredible. And again, because there's so much great stuff I want to come on to, I'll ask the next question. As the founder of Storymix, which we now understand how you got there and why you got there, and the baby was cute, what does leadership mean to you today? And I guess, how has that definition evolved from when you started out?
Oh, that's hard, because I like being in charge, but actually being a leader is really hard, right? So I suppose I would sort of divvy it up in a couple of bits. So there's kind of that thought leadership part, where I feel like, because I have all of these years of experience having worked in house, sometimes I call it like working in the belly of the beast. Like, publishing is such a strange, quirky industry. It's this very interesting mix of almost quite highly academic people who aren't paid very much, right?
Yeah.
And it can feel very close to to the outsiders looking in, right? It's kind of ivory tower territory. But I'd gone to Oxford, so by the time I got into publishing, I was like, yo, like this I can do, because I'd already had the hard bit of going from North London, like from social housing to Oxford. I've already done the hard bit. There's nothing you can throw at me. Like, I've done it. Like, you don't intimidate me. In fact, if you said something about imposter syndrome, I have never really suffered from imposter syndrome. There's other things that I struggle with, for sure. But imposter syndrome isn't it, because I know I'm really good at what I do.
Love it.
Even when I was 18 and I applied to Oxford, the school wouldn't support my application, right?
Wow.
And I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. Like, I just have always had that thing. It's just like, I don't know if it's purpose or whatever. It's just like, I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. Terrible at driving on motorways. That's okay, right? But I also know the things that I'm good at. But yeah, so in terms of that leadership, because I've got like 20 years experience in publishing, I think part of my role as being a leader is holding the industry to account, right? And just saying, we are like the cultural gatekeepers. We are supposed to be serving the reader. All you guys are doing are serving yourself, right? You're just building books in your own image. You're not thinking, especially when it comes to kids' books. I take that very seriously, our responsibility to children, and showing them the world in its multiplicity, right? Not just fancy because you grew up in the home counties and yada, yada, yada. So I take my role as leadership in the industry very seriously. And because I run my own company and I'm not answerable to a CEO at any of the big publishers, I've got that space. I think it's much harder to do that when you're in-house. Yeah. And I only got a lot more vocal once I was running my own business. Like, I have worked in-house and I would go, I'm not very happy about that. But once I was working for myself and it's my own platform, I'm like, it's not okay and it's not good enough. And when I set up Storymix in 2019 and I said, I'm going to create stories for all children, but the heroes are going to be Black and brown children. I had people say to me, oh, but don't you want books to be, don't you want to be the change you want to see? Like, all children should be represented, so you should do all books. I'm like, no, because none of you guys are doing this. So my laser focus is going to be on creating commercial storytelling, joyful storytelling that centers Black and brown kids, because you're not doing it, right? And once all of you are doing it, maybe I can do cats and dogs and magic bunnies. I'll do all of it. But until we fix it, this is my focus. And I'm sorry if you feel excluded, but I'm actually not sorry you feel excluded.
Oh, if I could, can I press some buttons on here to do like a high five? Wait to see something. Can I do reactions? Okay, but I don't think people have got time for me to figure out how to use it. So if there's, I found it. Yeah, some hearts. I'm going to sing and some trumpet, because for me that really resonates from a perspective. So many things, but Stormzy said one of his lines when he talks about doing a scholarship, and he's not he's pro-black, he's not anti-white. And I think for me that is what I chime in on, which is that I'm really not about charity. I'm really not about like, oh, worries, us. And we're not a monolith, by the way, because our lived experience is so nuanced that it makes me laugh when people say that we're all one thing, because jollof rice, as we know, is not jollof rice, but it's for another day. I just had to say it.
Unless you're going to send some over to me, it's for another day.
It's for another day. I'm going to move past it. But for you to do what you're doing, because you have the platform and the ownership to do it, resonates hugely. That's why I do what I do. Like, I speak to who I want to speak to, because yes, you can get other podcasts that will do this, but I want representation. I want other people to see themselves in the stories of across various industries, because maybe not for you, because you were just like, I'm doing it, but for some, seeing is believing, hearing is thinking, oh my God, I didn't even know about that. That sounds up my street. And then they do it in their ways. So thank you so much for that. And more hearts are coming up. I can feel it. So just when it comes to addressing the underrepresentation of children following books, which you talked about, like, what entrepreneurial mindset or skill was most critical in turning that vision into a business?
I wish I can remember the title of this book. There's a book I read really early on, which was about reverse engineering, which I thought was very interesting, because in storytelling, you really often just have a set of tropes, things that you've seen, like hero's journey, right? I know you would have heard about hero's journey. So you start in a place of sort of naivety, right? You have the calling, you refuse the call, you cross the threshold from the ordinary world to the extraordinary world. Like, these are the ways we've been telling stories for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, right? So we're not going to reinvent some of these tropes. So one of the things that I was thinking as an entrepreneur is like, right, I'm going to tell stories that center Black and brown children. Okay, I'm going to look at the market and look at some of the formats where that has worked the most effectively. So one of my first series, in fact, for Storymix was called is called Aziz's Secret Fairy Door. I sold it to Macmillan. And that's because in the past I've worked on lots of fairy stories. So worked on a series called Rainbow Magic, which has sold millions and millions. So I know fairies are really popular with children, right? I know that truth. I was like, okay, but what does fairies look like with this Storymix lens, with the Storymix source, right? And I'm going to center a little Black girl in this story. Like, what does that adventure look like for her? So I think that's one of the things, like in terms of entrepreneurial like mindset, is like, I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel. Like, the storytelling wheel is really adequate. It's just about who's got to be in those stories. So that's definitely one of the mantras that I live by in terms of us sort of thinking about new ideas.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I'm going to be watching this again, I can tell you right now. But yeah, so when I talk to leaders, they sometimes speak about, and I think we had this when I think Barbara Campos came to talk to us from Joseph. They talk about growth being chaotic if structure is missing. In your experience, what systems or perhaps habits, because I'm thinking about what others can maybe take from your learning, not to reinvent the wheel, but you've done it, so maybe they can learn from you.
Yeah.
So what systems or habits helped you build the team that you've got around you now and get the business to a bit of a scale, retain that creative core?
So the thing is, I want to tell you really healthy things because I don't want anyone burning out. But to get the thing started, it was literally, it's like the amount of that, it's the number of hours you put into the thing, like sort of everything into getting, it's almost like, you know, the propulsion to get the plane off the ground. And, you know, I want to say to you, yes, I went to the gym and I ate my 5 a day and it was all very balanced and reasonable, but it wasn't reasonable. It was unreasonable what I asked of myself to get the business going. And then it's even now, like year 6, I'm trying to put things in place so that I can have a healthier balance, because it hasn't always been healthy. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. Now, things have got easier once I did start to put some systems in place, which is not my natural skill set, is being organized in that same way the psychometric test. Like, I'm always like, oh, big idea, this new shiny idea is interesting me. And I'm like, la la la, off, you know. I find structure very difficult, actually. But one of the things that has really, really helped me is Notion. I don't know if you've ever used.
Yeah. Someone else actually talked about that who came on him. A good friend of mine, he talks about Notion. He says it's really good.
There's something about the way Notion is set up that really, because I would say I'm not overly techie, but it just works for me. And I can even like have pages where I'm like, shiny new idea, come in here and play for a little bit, but remember you got to do, you know, like it's so Notion has really helped. And then I would say even recently, with a lot of these AI tools that are coming on board, like crikey, like Gemini, which is sort of bedded into sort of Google Suite, that's kind of it's just blowing my mind, like how much more productive I can be. It's interesting because there's some tension, certainly in the industry I'm in, about using AI at all, really. But I feel like AI in the sort of operations space, in terms of us being a small team trying to make a big impact, is really helping. And even as I'm saying this, I'm like, oh, don't cancel me. But like, I'm just being real. We don't have masses of resource, and it is really helping.
Thank you. And I knew you would. This is why I wanted us to do this, that you would be real and you would speak and even call me up, you know, when I intimated that maybe there was some imposter syndrome. Maybe that's me.
That one bit isn't true, but lots of the rest of it was.
No, but maybe that's how I would have felt coming from where you came from. But this is why it's so funny. The older I get, the more I do stuff, the more I realize that perception is not always reality. Do you know what I mean? So we're not all equal, and we're very much different and have different callings. So love what you've said, and I like the idea because the AI piece and making an impact and using what you have, powerful. I like the truth that you spoke around the unreasonableness that it took to get you started, because for me that speaks to when you're in a car and if it's a manual and you can rev it pretty hard and it will go into the red, like on the rev counter. You can't stay in that place because you will blow up the engine, gearbox, something. And so just to give people that reality check, that much like, you know, those old school pumps that you get water out of the ground, you're going to have to really go really hard to get any traction going, right?
I just can't see how you would do it any other way, because right at the beginning, you don't really have resource. All you've got is yourself. So you are just you're like the worst boss to yourself. Like you get sued all day long if anyone was to chart the hours and look at the expectations that you have on yourself as a founder trying to set something up. Like it's not okay. It's not reasonable, and it can't be forever.
Yeah, no, it's not sustainable, because then things will break. So many things to go into. And I think one of the other areas I want to delve into is, you talk about tension, and the tension I want to touch upon was between staying true to your purpose and commercial viability, because as far as I remember, this is not a not-for-profit enterprise. There is a purpose behind it that is definitely powerful, but that balance between being true to yourself and commercial viability, how do you balance those two in Storymix's strategy?
I think, remember what I was saying about the reverse engineering. So this model that I use for Storymix is what we call in the trade book packaging, right? So that's where we come up with the ideas in-house for a series. We come up with the world, we come up with the plot, and then we hire a writer to bring it to life. And then we edit it, sometimes rewrite it if necessary, right? And then we go and pitch it to HarperCollins or Penguin. That's a business model that's existed since the 1950s. And my second job in publishing was working for a company that did just that. And lots of authors that I worked with back there would say, do you know what we love about working for a book packager? It's like getting paid to be on a writing course. Like, you really put us through our paces, but we understand we are not the author. We're the writer on this series and idea, but we are not the author, right? And I always explain it like, you're maybe the nanny to the idea, but you're not the parent. In both of those scenarios, that baby needs to be kept alive and looked after and loved and nurtured, right? But they're different relationships. So in terms of the commercial, I think what's been really helpful is because there is this expectation. It's interesting, I saw a post about for Black people in business and giving back, like, where does the line get crossed where you're just giving and giving, and actually, like, you've got to put on your own life vest first, right? I think there's something about the model, this business model, that meant that was always really clear. So the writers that I work with and who I'd nurture and care and I'm trying to launch, but they always understood that the intellectual property, the idea, belongs to Storymix, and I will work really hard and help that writer and nurture their craft, and then they can go off and do their own idea and launch their own careers, and I'll be cheering on from the sidelines. And that looks like success for me, because my impact is I want there to be more writers and illustrators of color, and I want there to be more books with Black and brown children as the heroes. Those are the two parts of the mission statement. But the thing about book packaging, it is just like hard-nosed commercial. Like the contract is really clear. You work on this, the IP belongs to Storymix, and Storymix will exploit that idea in all the ways that it can. So if it can make it into a film and TV show, they will. If they can sell it to a games company, they will. They'll sell the audio rights, and you'll get a revenue cut on some of those streams, but not all of them. And I was always just so clear from the beginning, this is what the deal is, and you don't have to do it, right? And you might not be suited to working to somebody else's vision also, right? Because we will deliver a storyline that says, right, the characters are like this, and this is the world, and then this happens. And of course, the writer can contribute and have thoughts, but it's like coming to write on EastEnders or something, right? The person who's come and written an episode on EastEnders isn't thinking that they own EastEnders.
Got you.
You see what I mean? So there's something about that which meant I could always keep it really commercial, because one of the things I've noticed over the years working with Black and brown writers, it's changing a bit now, but the stories were always like, oh, I've got to try and fix racism in this book for kids, right? Because I've been given this little window and I've got to fix it. And it's like, no, talk to me about snot and bogies and fun, please. That's what I want to see. That's what our children need to see. Right. And because this is a longer answer than I meant it to be, but because the IP was always Storymix, I didn't have to worry about hurting someone's feelings. I could just be so clear in the creative vision for the thing and go, right, so this one behind me, Secret Beast Club. What we're really talking about is Black kids in nature, right? Yeah. And all of the health benefits of that. That's what we're smuggling in. But actually what the story is about these two kids who discover that there's these things called bewilder bubbles. So this first one is set in Hackney, right? Bewilder bubbles where magical creatures live, unicorns live, and that they're the custodians of looking after these magical creatures. So, and that's and it's light and it's frothy, and that's okay, because the message is still there, even if it's smuggled kind of deep. So
I love this. And you know what I hear from that is clear communication that is transparent, builds trust, and allows alignment. And it allows alignment insofar as, here is the deal, to your point. You can take or you cannot take, and you are free to do whichever you choose, depending on what your values are and if they align with the vision that we have. So I love all of that. And I also love how, I think you're sneaky. I think you're like those parents that puree like broccoli and then put it in their kids' food, because it's, the goodness is getting there, but you don't have to have it on your plate like, my God, there's this big branch of broccoli on here that I need to eat. And I love that, because I take that as normalizing, right? So we're normalizing, I say we like I'm involved. I want to be involved. You are normalizing through Storymix the presence of such characters, because not every book that isn't with a person of color is about whatever it may be. It is just the fact that there is representation. So these kids can enjoy a story, and subliminally, much like the blended broccoli, they're seeing themselves and understanding that there is a journey and there is fun and it's not hard and there's not sorrow. And goddamn, we need more down this planet, Jasmine. Where can I press these buttons?
Press the button.
If I end it, I'll call you straight back. Hold on. Listen. Pow, 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 pow. And clap. I think, yes. Don't people actually see that, or they'll just think I'm strange. But anyway.
No. I think I can see it.
Good. If you can see
thank you.
That counts. This is, wow. We're cantering through, and I think that there's so much. I think where I'm going to go is I'm going to go to chapter 4, which is creativity and impact. And because you've touched upon joy and not having to fix racism within a window, and I love how you talk about joy and representation rather than trauma. And in children's literature for marginalized children, I think that's just powerful. For you, why is that distinction so important? Because I feel like that's a core value of yours. That's how I'm hearing it. And how do you continue to ensure that that's embedded in the way you move forward? Because I guess people will come to you and be like, but I want to write about this. And you're like, yeah, no.
No, I'm like, yeah. And actually, I'll talk to you and help you find an agent and I'll give you advice, but we're not doing that. Like, because the idea always starts with Storymix. It's not even about taking in their idea and then having to say, no, sorry. Like, it's the other way. It's always the other way. But I try and give back. I will always try and find the time to talk to an aspiring writer or illustrator. And they're like, there's really important stories that I want to tell about our community that might be rooted in trauma. And there is a truth that needs to be told. And I will try and support them to do that and connect them with the right people. It's just not what we're about. It's not what Storymix is about. It's not what I want to put into the world. But the reason why I know I don't need to put it into the world, because I know other people have got that, and that's where they will feel creatively energized. But that does not energize me.
Got you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
There was like that film Precious and that whole thing about just black, like it's just not me.
No.
And to your point, like where does that come from? I think I read a book, probably I was about in year 8, called Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, which is an amazing book.
Yeah, read it.
Wonderful book. And it's the first time I ever saw a character that looked like me on the front cover of a book. And I remember feeling so excited about that. And I remember reading the book and loving it. But oh my goodness, there's so much trauma in that book, right? So imagine that the first time you actually see yourself in a book, and that is the book. And there's not like there's other things. Like if it's not like there's other things on the plate to counterbalance that. Like maybe you got that in films. Like I grew up in the era of like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and stuff like that. My goodness, Moesha.
Yeah, sister.
Let's go there. Yeah. So there were things. I'm even going to say the Cosby Show, but
I know it was. Yeah, anyway.
But it was important. It was in my childhood. It was important to see a show like the Cosby Show. Actually, just that very natural wealth aspiration, and it just was. It wasn't. We didn't talk about why and how did that happen, but like it just was. Like Claire was a lawyer. Like we don't need to talk about him. Claire was a lawyer. Fly, great mum.
Yeah. Like, on a more extreme version of that, I was recently reminiscing with a friend about coming to America.
Yes.
And as with the Cosby Show, you know, there's elements, and I this is a wider conversation about how you can retain some of the goodness when something becomes tarnished with controversy.
Yeah.
There's an essence that came from Cosby Show, but also the Coming to America, which I think should be retained. Now, watching it back, there are also some other things in there, and I'm like, I'm
really problematic, right?
Yeah, problematic. Yeah. But again, what I would like to maybe invite provocation on is that this is the nuance of life. Just because I like Coming to America doesn't mean that I subscribe to some of the views that were from that time currently, but thematically, which I know you'll get me on this, I hope you'll be on this, to see Africa represented as a caricature of wealth, creativity, but humility and educational brilliance. Coming to America and see the juxtaposition of.
I mean, that's so powerful. Had we seen it before? I don't think that we'd seen that.
No, it was for me like Black Panther, and I know we're going way off topic. You got me started. So it was like Black Panther, just seeing Africa in a different light. And I think, fortunately, I got to live in Ghana for some time. So when I would see those well-meaning charity adverts with the kids with the bellies and the flies, I'd be like, and people would make reference to, well, that's where you're from. Do you have shoes? But I'd be like,
but have you been though? Yeah.
I'd be like, well, no, that wasn't what I had. A better life there than I do here. I don't know. So I was centered in that knowing, but if you don't know, it's a challenge. But back to Coming to America, the creativity and the influence it had without saying too much. It was the depiction of lightness, of joy, of creativity. Later on, do I understand some of the underlying themes that were woven in, like maybe the blended broccoli we're talking about? So
yeah.
We need to do book club or film club.
Or film club. But what's interesting as well is because one of the things that can frustrate me about publishing is you can feel really siloed, and it's like, well, books are good for children, screens are bad for children. But I actually think even on something like Fortnite, you're still getting storytelling there as well. So I'm like, as long as there's variety is what's important. But if we're always putting this value judgment, then are we surprised when kids, because there's this massive decline in kids reading, which as an entrepreneur is worrying if the person you're trying to sell things to doesn't want it anymore. So,
I hear you. And gosh, so much. So, question to ask you: mentorship and building pathways for new writers is something you've touched upon. How you got your first gig. What's the one piece of advice, and there may be more than one, that you give someone who may be from underrepresented, who wants to come into publishing, or maybe even start their own venture someday?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of coming into publishing, which is still an intensely white and middle class industry, it's those two things together. Let's say you're trying to start a career in publishing. I think I swallowed a lot of stuff coming up, and I really hope that a young person coming into publishing now wouldn't feel the need to do that. So I'm not going to say I never had imposter syndrome, right? But there were definitely moments when I heard something or there was a behavior, and did I call it out every single time? Like, I didn't. I was like, my head was down. I'm like, right, I'm just gonna get to the ladder, get up, get to the top of the ladder. And actually I was kind of on the wrong ladder. Like, what the advice I would have given to myself if I could was to have started that entrepreneurial journey and doing it for myself a bit sooner than I did. I did it after having children. I could probably have started a bit earlier because I love working for myself. And then also, you don't need to swallow all the shit, right? You can say, like, I felt like once I was running my own thing, had my own platform, like, I really found my voice. So but yeah, for someone coming into publishing, like, find your people, because you are going to need them. You're still going to be in rooms where you are the only one, which is ridiculous if you think that most of publishing is in London, right? You've been to London, right? You know what London looks like on the tube. You get off the tube, you walk into a publishing house.
No.
Yeah.
So
I would probably say something about bring your full self to work, because all that code switching stuff is exhausting and it's a hard enough job already.
Tiring, so tiring. I literally had a call earlier on, and the person I spoke to was like, I read one of your posts and you talked about God, and I was like, oh my God, because I was like, I can't talk about God, like, it's not professional, it's not this. And I was like, okay, but you did, and that's what made me reach out to you. And I was like, okay. Said to her, like, the thing is that I can only be honest. I've got fewer days ahead of me than behind me. If I get to the average life expectancy, I don't mean to be morbid. I just want to be real. I just want to be really. If I get to the average life expectancy that I'm supposed to, and it doesn't always happen, as we know, I've got less days ahead of me than I've had, and therefore, with intention, I want to spend the remaining days around people in the places doing the pursuits. What has been really interesting is there are people that didn't like my ancestors. They did not, and by definition, as a descendant of those ancestors, they will not like me. And there are people that I'll meet today that do not like me. But if they don't like me for being who I am, well, better we find out sooner rather than later. Than with the code switching. So I will say what I feel and speak my truth, and my tribe will find me, and I will find my people. To your point, I segue because that literally came up today, and I think it's such a powerful thing within the context, obviously, of an organization. You got to manage it to a degree, but being yourself is no bad thing. Why do you want to fit in when 1 in 8 billion for a reason? You're special. Like, let's bring our best
being full self, best self. Yeah.
100.
Yeah.
Oh, you got me. You got me.
Got me with that line about the days behind and ahead. Damn.
I don't really want to dwell on it, but it's real, and it's something that if you are awake to, then I think it can help you think with intentionality. Like, what do I want to create for me? Like, to your point, I actually think you got to where you got to at the right time, because the skills that you've built, the resilience that being a parent gave you, the negotiation. Like, I have 3 children. Do they want to do what I tell them to do? No. Have I had to learn negotiation, consensus building? Yes. Does that help me today? Absolutely. I thought I'm teaching them, they're teaching me. Like, patience is a thing, like, it's a real thing. So I don't know. I don't want to invalidate what you're saying, because I don't need to. That's your story and your feeling. But I do see from the outside looking in that amen to you starting where you were, using what you had and doing what you can. And
you're right. I probably have the networks and the experience, you know. And there is something about actually having children. So the problem you're trying to solve, and you can actually trying to solve it for. So I was trying to solve it for the Jasmine of the past, who the first time she saw herself was Roll of Thunder here. I cried. And then also my actual children now. So the child of the past, the children now, all those other children who aren't seeing themselves. And then, you know, then we ask ourselves, why aren't they readers? And it's like, because they're not being invited in. They're not. What is that, Drake? They're not slow. Like, if they're nowhere in the bookshop, they're not like, you're not really inviting everyone in, are you?
Yeah. So many questions. So I want to pivot to your future vision, because there are so many other things. I just feel like I'll keep you here for hours, and I know full well, like we did say, there was a hard stop. So I want to talk a bit about your future and the vision that you've got, chapter 6 in my mind. And we got to meet on the BBI's MBA 30 program. So I'm hoping that you also handed in your assignment for your business plan.
I did the business plan, but I haven't done the self-reflection. When is the deadline for that?
We come on to that. So that's fine. My question to you was, with the fact that you've now done the business plan, what do the next 5 years or so look like? And I guess in terms of a vision, maybe audacious, maybe conservative, for you, Storymix, what does that look like? Because I'd love to hear more, because I didn't get to see your business plan before you turned in. That might have been helpful to me in some way, but
so I didn't get to 5 years. I did it more to 3. And it's quite interesting, actually, because I feel like for the last 6 years we've been on this journey of more, like, we're just going to create more ideas, and we have the idea, and we're going to activate the idea by creating a book, right? So I mean, how many projects have I sold? I think officially it's 18, but actually there's other things that I've sold that haven't been formally announced. So we're probably like on 24 different IPs, right? So that's like, so of those 24, there can be multiple books in each of those series. So 24 series, all different characters. And remember, Storymix owns the IP for all of those things. So I feel like our next phase is a proper activation of those IP. So, you know, again, if I was to point to this series here, like, that would be amazing as an animation, right? But I could also see it as like a podcast between these two characters for children, like a podcast for children where they're talking about myth and magic, but in urban settings. And like if you just take one bit of IP, like, all of a sudden it spins out in all of these different ways. And I feel like what I want to do in the next 3 years is actually properly activate each of those IP. So this one, and I know you've seen this so many times, right? But this is our title, The Christmas, which is all of the story about Santa's retiring and he's looking for his replacement, and Mikey enters his grandpa into that competition. Now, when I think about this book, I'm also thinking about like a Christmas song, right? I'm thinking about like an immersive audio experience. I'm thinking about actual physical pop-ups where children can come and meet our Black Santa and have a photo and leave with a book. Like, and that's just one IP, all the things that could happen. So for me, the next 3 years is about that process. It's sort of mining what we've already developed and sort of spinning it out so they become proper brands, like legacy brands. So things that will exist even after I'm gone. That's the ambition, right? Like things that will like travel and remain. Basically, I want to be like Marvel. I'm still with Stan Lee.
I think I've said I love this like more times than I've quality, deeper quality, because it is already quality, deeper quality, not necessarily greater quantity. And I guess, yeah, finding a way somehow to systemize or franchise that creative magic that you've got, because as you speak there, I'm like, ooh.
Well, yeah.
And I see now where you're talking about this notion thing where it's like, okay, shiny thing, come play here for a bit, because I guess that is you, it's part of you. Your creativity doesn't stop. It's like you're always thinking that you're always creative, but at some point, as we know, when we had to hand in this business plan, you have to stop creating and actually execute.
Yeah, execute is the word. Execute is the word. So every year I try and do this thing where I have a word for the year. So 2025, the word was connection, which is part of the reason why I did the MBA 30. Like the thing that attracted me to it was seeing the cohort. And I'd done a couple of other things this year where it was about community and being with my people and learning and connection. My word for 2026 is execute.
Fire. See, I could, I feel that with the team you have in place and the things that you've got in mind, that it's going to be your year. There's several songs that say this is Jasmine's year. I've heard them. It's going to be your year. Thank you. And I think you talked about redlining, and I just think helping other emerging leaders or established leaders on that. What are maybe some, if you could think of 3, great, but if you can't, just whatever comes to mind, non-negotiables in your day or week now that you believe underpin your ability to keep performing, because you're trying to get that balance, and I thought it'd be useful to help with how you shifted that, you know?
Yeah. So so one thing, I don't want to tell a fib and say I managed to do it every Friday, but most Fridays what I try and do is have a day where I can just be in the world and be absorbing, right? So I might try and go to like a museum, or it might even be meeting up with someone I haven't seen for a really long time that I know is like challenging me in different ways. There's a great book called The Creative Act, which sort of talks about how ideas, you're kind of like a divining rod for ideas, and you can get better at channeling them, right? I'll send you the link for it. It's a really great book. So like it all exists. It sounds a bit woohoo, but I also do know that ideas arrive with me, and I know I'm not the writer for it. I know I'm not the person as an author should write it. It's my job to find the right writer to bring it to life. But I'm like a vessel almost for this thing. And you get better at it. It is a bit like a muscle. I think I'm really good at that, actually. But what you need to be, if I'm just in this office all the time, I can't be that divining rod for ideas. Like I need to be out. I need to be out talking to someone, doing something, and then it will come. And then I'm quickly on Notion, like, don't forget this. There's something in this. Like, come back to it. So that's one thing that I try and do on a Friday. So just making space to be creative and like nurture that creative self is really important. What else would I say in terms of redline? I'm still really bad in terms of like, I wish I could say I finish at 5. and I start at 9, but I'm still sending email. Like, it's really bad. So I'm like, redline it for yourself, guys. Like, it's not good.
You keep it real, and
yeah,
this bit about being the divining rod and going out to get inspiration, it's not rude to me at all. I subscribe 100%, blue tick verified to this thing. And when in what I do, you know, talking to people, leading, coaching people, etc., it comes to people in different ways. For some people, it is playing tennis. I've had that. For others, it's when they're in the shower, like hearing the water. Other people, it's actually being by water and just it's going on holiday. For me, it is strangely when I'm on my bicycle is one, or a motorized bike is another. In that moment, I am forced to be present in a way that is singular in its focal point. And I feel like, tell me if this is way too rude, I feel in that moment like the subconscious trickle down like that coffee percolator, and then and it's like, okay, all right, I'm hearing, I'm receiving, I'm getting it. And that divining is, I feel, coming from this universal intelligence that we're all connected to, universal thought, universal intelligence. And if you practice it 100%, I mess with it. I'm messing with it.
All right. So then if you're being like that woohoo, I'm going to take you up one, right? Which is talking about, because this really does work for me, and it's sort of liminal spaces. So that's just before I go to sleep, or just as I'm coming out of sleep. And also this takes practice, but you can stay longer in that liminal space where you're just so creative, right? So then there's a sort of awareness that I'm coming out of sleep and I'm having ideas, and I can even give myself a problem to solve in my dreams. Does this sound really weird? Like, I really can sort of go to sleep, it'll be like a plot problem, like, the character's here, I need to get them here, how will I fix that, how can I do that? And if I sort of give that as an intention before I go to sleep, I'll wake up with the answer.
Yes, please. Can you send me all? Anyway, I'm going to watch this back, but I believe that is entirely possible. And I think for some, yes, it will be woo woo. For others, it will be like, oh my God, that happens to me as well. And that again comes back to the richness and variety that is life, you know? So if that can help someone, brilliant. We've got just a couple more questions.
Okay, yeah.
Even though I've got so many more to ask you, I need to know about this liminal space. So, I'm going to pick carefully. We've talked about representation, inclusion, and being purposeful with the storytelling. And I know that this current climate we're in is complex, and there are ongoing challenges, not least economic. From your perspective, what could be a systematic change that still needs to happen in order to bring more acceptance, acknowledgement, understanding of our rich diversity? And how can leaders, wherever they sit, whatever influence they wield, play a part in accelerating that systematic change?
I mean, if I was going to keep this tight focus on publishing, because I thought about this a lot, having sold many projects, right? So try and keep this short. When an author sells a book, right? If you're actually going to look at it as like how much you got paid per hour, it makes no sense. Books make no sense. You spend hundreds of hours writing a book, and you might sell it for an advance of £5,000, right? Makes no sense. Starts to make sense when that same book is sold in many different countries, and that author doesn't have to do anything more, right? They've written the book, the publisher sells it to Croatia, sells it to China, sells it in the States, sells it in all these places. So that same bit of work is almost recycled or translated, right? It's translated into all those languages, and you get paid for that. And then it starts to make sense. There is a unique challenge for Black writers in publishing. If you actually look at their work across the board and you see how many territories, so it's called territories, each country that you sell in.
Got you.
Look at the number of territories that their books are selling in, it is disproportionately lower, right? And I can tell you, for the 18 projects that we have sold, we might sell in the States. We might have a better than average chance. Well, this was true before Trump. It's not true anymore. We would do quite well, right? So that book there, Future Hero, it's about a young boy, goes to a barber shop, gets a symbol cut into his hair, crosses through the barbershop mirror into this Afro-futuristic world. And he's the hero they've been waiting for, right? So it's like he walks into Wakanda, comes, and that was off the basis of young Black boys getting excluded from school because of haircuts. That was the seed that I read, and that was where the idea came from, right? But Future Hero sold in the States, sold over 250,000 copies, book one in America. Have we sold it anywhere else in the world? We've not sold those rights anywhere else in the world. Secret Beast Club have not sold that anywhere else in the world. Granny Jinx, nowhere else in the world. Out of 18 properties that we own, like maybe we're talking about 5, we've got a couple in Holland, like maybe 1 in France. So actually the model isn't really working because the rest of the world isn't ready for books that center Black and brown children as heroes. So if I was still in-house in a publishing house, and I have spoken about this before, I actually think, because then when they're looking at the Black author's work and they're like, oh, it hasn't performed, hasn't sold that many, because we haven't sold it in any territories, right? And no one is addressing the massive elephant in the room. It's like, not the author's fault if other territories are racist, right? So I feel like there almost needs to be another pot of money which is used to help that author's work, like actually get past that bias, or make sure it definitely is sold in the States or in the places where the books are more welcome. And actually the very measure that these books are, that yardstick needs to be different. It needs to be different. It's not fair to say that author hasn't earned out their advance and they haven't done well. Like, what on earth can they do about the fact that you can't sell it in any other country apart from the States? Maybe.
Right. Powerful stuff, and a real question that I think needs answering, because the measurement of success, I mean, the exam question is not the correct question to be asked right now. And we should pick up, because I've got some ideas. You know, it doesn't have to be English speaking, but I guess the parts of West Africa that I'm familiar with, South Africa that I'm familiar with, but I suppose it's just to understand who makes that decision, because I think the market would be it.
Okay, so can I tell you what happens there? And this again is talking about the bias of the industry, right? Those rights, they're not even counted as territories. It's just UK and Commonwealth, right?
Right. Okay.
So they don't even really believe there's a publishing industry there. So they don't even try and sell the license to a publisher in Nigeria or South Africa. They'll export the English edition into those territories in a very lackluster way. And so it doesn't, they don't even see it. It doesn't even get deemed as being a territory in its own right. It's just Commonwealth.
We can chop this up, and we're going to chop this up for sure. Wow.
Yeah.
I think for my last question, I'm Denard just in this moment, because I was captivated by what you were saying. If we wrap up the interview, one simple mantra or guiding principle that you live by, I guess, what would it be, and how do you apply it in your day-to-day movings around?
I think it changes depending, like, I feel like there's been this cycle, and where we are in the cycle right now, which is with all of these flags, and, you know, roundabout near where I live has got a big old cross on it, right? The truth is, there's not that many people in kids publishing who look like me, who have my lived experience, who have my ability to develop ideas, like the things that uniquely make me me. And actually the networks, because I've worked in publishing for 20 years, so I'm quite well networked. Like a lot of the people that I'm selling projects to, we started as an editorial assistant at the same time.
Sure. Damn.
Right. There's not many, most other black and brown people started in publishing at the same time as me are no longer in publishing, because they came in, they're like, nah, sorry,
I'm out.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Not funny really, but
not funny, but I'm out. So there's these unique set of circumstances, and I suppose I've got in my head, my son, he's almost 13, and he was listening to this song on the way to school, and I think it goes something like, if I can do it, why can't you? I don't know who the artist is, and I think maybe that's where I am, right? I feel like it's not exactly a mantra, but what I feel like it's important that I'm still in this industry and still making these waves, so that people coming through are like, okay, so this is what it looks like in 20 years. And I hope that they think I'm thriving. I feel very blessed for the life that I have. I have a very creatively rich life. I'm not saying it's always easy, but you know, if you were just to write on a piece of paper what my day job is, I get to think about unicorns in Hackney. Like, that's my job. Right?
The best.
It's the best. It's the best. So maybe something around that in these very, very hard times. It's like, I am here. We are still making the change. We're going to have fun with it. Please stay. I'm always like, I'm calling up. I meet a new young black editor. I'm like, hi, it's Auntie Jasmine. Hey, going. They're like, oh, well, this thing happened. I was like, please don't go. Please don't leave.
Yeah.
And then so often I'll get a call like, oh, Jasmine, I know you wanted me to stay, but I'm out. I'm going into podcasts. I'm going into advertising. I'm going to the BBC. Like, I can't be doing this. Like, that happens more than you can imagine.
Yeah.
It's a very tough industry to be a minority in.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think what a legacy and what an impact. You know, I said it at the beginning. I said leadership as courage, as service, and as creation. And you captured all three of those things just so well. I mean, you did English, so I guess it's like, you know, you're gonna be able to say it, but you've really captured that in a way that resonates with me. Just keep showing up, and it may not always be visible that the change that you want, but by showing up, you never know who sees it, feels it, needs it at any given time. So thank you so much. Now, shameless self-promotion plug. The book, I want to see it again. Where can we get it, please? Because Christmas is coming.
Back. So I did a Kickstarter for this. This was me experimenting, because we tried to sell this book to publishers, and they said, oh, basically what they said was, this will struggle to find its audience. What I heard was, Black Santa, you've gone too far. Yeah.
Well, it depends who you're asking. So what's it? Please tell me the title, because I can see it. But if
someone's sorry. Yeah, you can't really see. It's called The Other Father Christmas. And even the title is a little bit provocative, because we're talking about the other in a slightly academic way, but also our main character here, Curtis Merriman, who's of the Windrush generation. He has been playing the role of Santa for many years in his local community centre, right? And then his beloved wife, Claudette, passes away, and they would always do this thing together as Mr. and Mrs. Claus. And he's like, I don't want to do it without her. Can't do it without her. And his grandson really misses his old grandpa and Christmas and what that means. So then when the real Santa announces that he's retiring, Mikey secretly enters his grandpa. So imagine Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but instead of Willy Wonka, it's Santa, right? And they go off on this big adventure. And again, if we talk about smuggling themes in, the story here is full of like gingerbread escape rooms and wild reindeer races. But actually, thematically, what it's talking about is sort of talking about grief, right? And what Mikey needs to understand is Gramps is forever changed by the fact that Claudette is gone. All right. And they've got to work out what their relationship is like, because Gramps isn't the same person. Like, grief will do that to you. Gramps needs to come to understand that he can still love Christmas. That's not a betrayal of Claudette. So the story is about their journey back to each other whilst having all this fun, right, in Christmas land. And I don't want to give away any spoilers as to whether or not he gets the job. But the thing about Curtis is he's like a barrel kid, right? So he was one of those children that was left in the Caribbean when his parents came over to the UK to build a life, and they would send these barrels back full of biscuits and presents. So Curtis really understands the power of gifts. That's one of the things that he's always understood. So is he best placed to win this role as Santa? Buy the book and find out.
And where can we get it? Where can we get it?
Yes. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on our website, which is storymixbooks.com. You should be able to find it in places like Waterstones. Haven't managed to get into supermarkets, but I will try for next year.
Amazing. Execute. What I'll do is I'll put a link in the episode resources, I call them, so that people can get to it, because Christmas is coming, and I think a story that brings some joy and light, love and laughter to people would be just the tonic. I could definitely do a double dose of that. So thank you so much. I know we've flown by, but such was the richness and authenticity with which I knew you would speak that you got me going. I'm not supposed to,
it was great. I felt like it was really good. Like, you pulled out some things I hadn't even really appreciated. So thank you for that.
Well, deep calleth unto deep, someone once told me. So thank you, because a lot of the things that you said today, I'm going to need to watch it back, because I couldn't be doing the pause and reflect whilst we're live, because it's what people want to hear, because but thank you, and I can't wait to follow what you do with greater interest and get the book myself for my kids.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely rest of the day, and can't wait to catch up soon, and maybe check the deadline on that reflective essay.
Okay, isn't it?
It needs to be.
Okay.
You've got this.
I got this. See you later.
All right. Take care, sister.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.